Bullies tried to lift the teacher's skirt. Big mistake. She got revenge in a genius way. The worn sneakers barely made a sound against the polished hallway tiles as Ethan Moreau navigated through the morning rush at Riverside High School. 17 years old and standing at 5'7", his slight build made him easy to overlook in the crowded corridors. Dark brown hair fell messily across his forehead, and behind wire-rimmed glasses, sharp hazel eyes took in everything while revealing nothing. 4 months had passed since his family relocated from Quebec City to this suburban Illinois town, and the adjustment remained challenging. Moving through clusters of chattering students, Ethan maintained his practiced invisibility. The faint French-Canadian lilt in his speech, though he tried to suppress it, immediately marked him as an outsider. His tendency to spend lunch periods in the library, his preference for advanced coursework over social activities, these choices had painted a target on his back from day one. Hidden beneath his unremarkable exterior lay a carefully guarded secret. For 9 years, Ethan had dedicated himself to combat sports with an intensity that bordered on obsession. His training began after a traumatic incident at age 8, when older kids had beaten him so severely he'd spent a week in intensive care. His father, a retired Special Forces operative, had sworn it would never happen again. The countless hours in gyms across Quebec, the tournaments, the victories, all of it remained concealed behind his deliberately meek demeanor. His mother had extracted a solemn vow when they moved. No more violence, no more incidents like the one in Quebec City, where 3 high school seniors had ended up hospitalized after cornering him behind the hockey rink. "We came here for a fresh start," she'd pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "Promise me you'll find another way." He had given his word, though each day tested that promise. The primary source of that testing came in the form of Ryan Cooper and his followers. Ryan commanded attention at 6'3", with the muscular build of someone who lived in the weight room. His carefully styled blonde hair and piercing blue eyes gave him a classic all-American appearance that teachers found trustworthy and girls found attractive. But Ethan recognized the calculating cruelty behind that handsome facade, the same darkness he'd seen in predators before. Brett Sullivan served as Ryan's enforcer, built like a linebacker with scarred knuckles that spoke of frequent fights. Noah Chen, the third member of their group, possessed a nervous energy and participated more from cowardice than genuine malevolence. This trio had made Ethan's daily existence a carefully orchestrated hell. The harassment began subtly. Books knocked from his hands with fake apologies, shoulders driven into his ribs when passing in empty hallways, his backpack mysteriously relocated to trash bins or bathroom stalls. They called him Frenchie and maple syrup, mocked his accent when he spoke in class, and created elaborate jokes about Canadians that grew increasingly vicious. Ethan absorbed it all without visible reaction, though each incident required tremendous self-control. His hands would clench involuntarily, muscle memory demanding he respond with the techniques drilled into him through thousands of training hours. Instead, he would breathe deeply, remember his mother's tearful face, and walk away. The main cafeteria at Riverside High resembled a social battlefield, with invisible borders marking territory for various cliques. Ethan had claimed a corner table near the emergency exit, strategic positioning that allowed him to observe while remaining peripheral. He thought he'd found relative safety there until Ryan's crew decided otherwise. "Look who's dining alone again," Ryan announced one Wednesday, his voice pitched to carry across nearby tables. "What's wrong, Frenchie? Nobody wants to hear about hockey and healthcare." Brett materialized beside Ethan's chair, looming with practiced intimidation. "Boss is talking to you, Maple Leaf. Show some respect." "I'm trying to eat," Ethan replied softly, maintaining focus on his sandwich while calculating angles and distances automatically, old habits dying hard. Noah giggled nervously. "What's that you're reading? How to Speak American for Dummies." Ryan snatched the book, an advanced calculus text, and whistled mockingly. "Math? Christ, no wonder you're such a loser. He held the book over Ethan's soup bowl. Oops! The splash sent hot liquid across the table, soaking Ethan's notes and splattering his shirt. Laughter erupted from surrounding tables while Miss Walker, the lunch supervisor, remained conveniently absorbed in her crossword puzzle at the far end of the room. Ethan watched his ruined materials drip onto the floor, his breathing deliberately measured. 9 years of training screamed for release. He could visualize exactly how to drop all 3 of them in under 10 seconds. Instead, he quietly gathered his destroyed belongings and left without a word, their laughter following him out. But Ryan's appetite for torment only grew with each non-reaction. The incidents escalated systematically. Ethan found his gym clothes shredded, his bicycle tires punctured, threatening notes stuffed in his locker. When his father attempted to address it with administration, Principal Hayes offered only platitudes about boys working things out and suggestions that Ethan try harder to fit in. "Let me handle it my way," his father had urged afterward, his military bearing evident in his rigid posture. "No," Ethan insisted. "I gave Mom my word. I'll figure something out." The crescendo arrived on an unseasonably warm Thursday in early May, during Miss Chen's advanced chemistry class. She was young for a teacher, perhaps 28, with an infectious enthusiasm for science that made even complex topics engaging. Her professional attire, a navy pencil skirt and cream blouse, was always impeccable, and she treated every student with genuine respect and kindness. Ethan had developed deep admiration for Miss Chen. She'd noticed his isolation and made subtle efforts to include him, partnering him with friendly students for lab work and praising his insights during discussions. She represented everything good about education, everything worth protecting. The chemistry lab occupied a corner room on the 3rd floor, with tall windows providing natural light and ventilation hoods for experiments. Miss Chen stood at the smartboard, diagramming molecular structures with her back to the class. Her focus was complete, unaware of the sinister energy building behind her. "Watch this," Ryan whispered to Brett, his phone already recording. "Bet she's got something nice under that tight skirt." Ethan's blood turned to ice. He watched Ryan rise slowly from his seat, making exaggerated, sneaking motions that drew snickers from several classmates. Brett followed with his own phone out, grinning viciously. Noah remained seated, but watched with obvious anticipation. The room held its collective breath as Ryan crept forward, his hand extended toward the hem of Ms. Chen's skirt. Several students looked horrified but paralyzed, unwilling to intervene. Ethan's internal battle raged. Every instinct demanded action, but calling out would only redirect Ryan's attention without preventing the assault. Ryan's fingers had just grazed the fabric when Ms. Chen spun around with startling speed. "Don't even think about it," she said, her voice deadly calm. The transformation was remarkable. The gentle teacher disappeared, replaced by someone radiating controlled fury. Ryan tried to step back, but Ms. Chen grabbed his wrist in what Ethan recognized as a practiced joint lock. "I was just—" Ryan started. "You were just attempting to sexually assault your teacher," Ms. Chen interrupted, twisting his arm to force him to his knees. "Brett, put that phone down before you join him." The phone clattered to the floor as Brett backed away, hands raised. Miss Chen maintained her grip on Ryan, who winced at the pressure on his wrist. "Let me explain something," she said conversationally, though her eyes blazed. "I spent 6 years training in Krav Maga after college. I could break your wrist right now and claim self-defense. The only reason I'm not is because I'd rather see you expelled." She released Ryan with a slight shove that sent him sprawling. "All 3 of you, principal's office now. And Ryan, if you even look at me wrong again, you'll discover what else I learned in those 6 years." The humiliation on Ryan's face was complete. The entire class had witnessed his defeat by a woman half his size. As he gathered his belongings, his gaze found Ethan, and pure hatred flashed in his eyes. "After school," he hissed as he passed Ethan's desk. "Back parking lot, you're dead, Frenchie." Something fundamental shifted in Ethan's chest at those words. The careful control he'd maintained for months cracked like ice in spring. Ryan wasn't content with his own humiliation. He needed to reassert dominance by attacking someone he considered weak. But more importantly, this was about Miss Chen now. She'd shown incredible courage, and Ryan wanted to punish someone for it. The remaining hours passed in a haze. Ethan found himself oddly calm, as if a decision had been made at some cellular level. When the final bell rang, he didn't rush to leave or try to avoid the confrontation. Instead, he went to his locker with methodical precision, removing unnecessary items and stretching subtly, preparing his body for what was coming. Emma Thompson, a quiet girl from his physics class, approached hesitantly. "Ethan, everyone knows Ryan's waiting for you. Maybe you should go out the front." He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time, noting her genuine concern. "Thanks, Emma. But running won't solve anything." "He's dangerous," she insisted. "Last year he broke someone's orbital bone." A thin smile crossed Ethan's lips. "So am I." The back parking lot sprawled behind the gymnasium, bordered by woods on one side and athletic fields on the other. By the time Ethan arrived, at least 50 students had gathered, forming a loose circle with Ryan at the center. Brett and Noah flanked him, trying to look menacing. "Finally showed up," Ryan called out, playing to his audience. "Thought you might have run home to Mommy in Canada." Ethan walked forward steadily, his entire demeanor transformed. Gone was the hunched posture and downcast eyes. He moved with fluid grace, perfectly balanced, completely relaxed. Several students noticed the change, whispering uncertainly. "You embarrassed me," Ryan continued, though something in Ethan's approach clearly unsettled him. "Made me look weak. That's going to cost you." "I didn't do anything," Ethan replied, stopping just outside striking range. His voice carried clearly, calm and measured. "You humiliated yourself." Ryan's face darkened. "Smart mouth won't help you now." He charged forward with a wide haymaker, all power and no technique. To Ethan, it looked like slow motion. 9 years of training took over. He slipped inside the arc of the punch, his body rotating as his elbow connected with Ryan's solar plexus. The bigger boy doubled over, gasping, and Ethan's knee was already rising to meet his descending face. The impact was precise, enough to stun, not enough to cause permanent damage. Ryan staggered backward, blood streaming from his nose, eyes wide with shock. "What the—" Brett started forward, but Ethan was already moving. The takedown was textbook, a low, single leg that transitioned into a sweep. Brett hit the asphalt hard, his head bouncing off the pavement. Ethan maintained control, applying an armbar that had Brett screaming in submission within seconds. "Stay down," Ethan advised, releasing the hold and rising smoothly. Noah had already backed away, hands raised in surrender. "I'm not part of this, man. This is between you guys." Ryan had recovered enough to stand, though his nose was clearly broken. Blood covered his shirt, and his eyes showed the first real fear Ethan had seen from him. "You want to know something interesting?" Ethan asked conversationally, beginning to circle. "I've been training in mixed martial arts since I was 8. Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, boxing. 63 amateur fights across Canada, 63 wins, 47 by knockout or submission." Ryan threw a desperate combination, but Ethan weaved through it effortlessly, responding with a leg kick that dropped Ryan to one knee. "The last time someone pushed me this far," Ethan continued, 3 of them ended up in the ICU. Broken bones, internal bleeding, severe concussions. My family had to leave town because of the lawsuits. He grabbed Ryan's shirt, pulling him close enough to whisper, "I promised my mother I wouldn't fight anymore. I've taken everything you've done to me for months because of that promise. But you had to go after Miss Chen. You had to make it about more than just me." The uppercut was perfect, generated from the hips, traveling through his core, delivered with surgical precision. Ryan's head snapped back, his eyes rolled white, and he collapsed unconscious before hitting the ground. The parking lot erupted in shocked exclamations. Brett was still on the ground, cradling his arm. Noah had disappeared entirely. Ryan lay motionless, except for the steady rise and fall of his chest. Ethan knelt to check Ryan's pulse, strong and regular, then looked up at the assembled crowd. "He'll be fine. Probably has a concussion, definitely needs his nose set, but he'll recover." He stood, addressing the watchers. "I don't want trouble with anyone else, but I'm done being anyone's victim. Spread the word." The crowd began dispersing rapidly, everyone eager to share what they'd witnessed. Within minutes, only a few remained, including Emma, who approached carefully. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," Ethan replied, though he felt no satisfaction from the violence. "Help me get him sitting up. He shouldn't be flat on his back if he vomits." Together, they propped Ryan against a car tire just as he began stirring. His eyes focused slowly, finding Ethan's face and flinching involuntarily. "Here's what happens now," Ethan said quietly. "You're done bullying people, not just me, everyone. You're going to leave Miss Chen alone, show her the respect she deserves, and if I hear about you targeting anyone else, we'll do this again, except I won't hold back." Ryan nodded weakly, unable to speak through the blood and swelling. "Get him to the nurse," Ethan told Brett, who had managed to stand. "Tell them he fell skateboarding if you want. I don't care." By Monday, the entire dynamic at Riverside High had shifted. Ethan arrived to find students giving him respectful space, some nodding acknowledgement, others simply staring. Ryan returned Tuesday with bandages across his nose and spectacular bruising. He kept his head down, avoided eye contact, and spoke only when necessary. Miss Chen pulled Ethan aside after chemistry class. "I heard about what happened. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he assured her. "I'm sorry it came to that." She studied him carefully. "You know, I saw something in you from the beginning, that quiet strength. Just be careful not to let it consume you." "I won't," he promised. "Violence is just a tool. The trick is knowing when to use it and when to put it away." Over the following weeks, the change in school atmosphere was palpable. Ryan's crew had dissolved completely. Brett transferred to another school. Noah became notably friendlier to everyone. Ryan himself seemed almost relieved to be free from the role he'd played, focusing on academics with newfound dedication. One afternoon, Ryan approached Ethan in the library. Ethan tensed, ready for anything, but Ryan's posture was entirely non-threatening. "I wanted to apologize," Ryan said quietly. "Not because I'm scared of you, but because I actually mean it. What I did to you, to Miss Chen, to others, it was wrong." Ethan studied him for a long moment. "Why did you do it?" Ryan shrugged uncomfortably. "My older brother was the same way. My dad, too. It's what I knew. But seeing Miss Chen stand up to me, then you, it made me realize I had a choice." "Everyone has a choice," Ethan agreed. "You just have to be brave enough to make the right one." "Yeah," Ryan said. "Anyway, I wanted you to know it's over. All of it. And maybe what happened needed to happen." As Ryan walked away, Ethan reflected on the strange turns life could take. His mother had been right that violence bred violence, but sometimes a single decisive action could break the cycle entirely. The key was using force judiciously as a last resort and never taking pleasure in it. He'd kept his promise to her in spirit, if not in letter. He hadn't sought violence, it had found him. And when it did, he'd ended it quickly and definitively. Now he could focus on what mattered: his education, his future, and perhaps even building some genuine friendships. Emma appeared at his table, gesturing to an empty chair. "Mind if I sit?" "Not at all," Ethan replied, genuinely pleased. "So," she said with a small smile, "want to tell me more about those 63 fights?" He laughed, the first real laugh he'd had since moving to Illinois. "How about we start with something else? Like this calculus problem I'm stuck on?" "Deal," she agreed. "But I'm definitely coming back to the fighting thing." As they bent over the textbook together, Ethan felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Hope, not just for survival, but for an actual life here. The confrontation with Ryan had been necessary, but it was what came after that truly mattered. He'd shown his strength, established boundaries, and now he could finally start building something positive. Miss Chen passed their table, offering a warm smile and a subtle nod of approval. Through the library windows, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot, where everything had changed. But that was the past now. The future stretched ahead, full of possibility, free from the shadow of fear. The boy who'd walked these halls in silence, absorbing punishment he didn't deserve, was gone. In his place stood someone who understood both power and restraint, someone who'd learned that sometimes you had to fight to earn peace. His mother would understand eventually. She'd wanted him safe, and now he was. Not through avoiding confrontation, but by facing it decisively when it couldn't be avoided.